Hey there, welcome everybody to the Week 15 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined as always by Michael Bullock. Do have a little bit of some bad news here. Good old MF Michael Fletcher will not be joining us this evening. He did, however, say he will be back with us tomorrow night for our loaded edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk on his channel, Braceman 95. So, not tonight, but he'll be back tomorrow. So, with that being said, Bullock and I will run the show here this evening, and we will start it off. Of course, Week 15 of the NFL season started last night. Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime Video. Oh, what a dud. We ended up getting a dud of a game, unfortunately, between the Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. Good news is the right team won. The bad news is the game was just, This would have been a Michael Fletcher game. He likes these kind of games. Los Angeles Rams winning the game by a score of 12-6. That's it. No touchdowns, all field goals. That's all we got. And notable numbers from the game last night. Kyron Williams, 29 carries, 108 yards. Puka Nacua following up from his big game against Buffalo last week. He had 7 catches for 97 yards. Another interesting note, Cooper Kupp, nothing. No catches, no yards, no nothing for Cooper Kupp, which is very interesting and very surprising. Turner had a couple of sacks. Rosaboom had a sack. 3 sacks, and also Williams, D. Williams, had a interception in the game. And 49ers just could not get anything going. Isaac Orendo was the leading rusher, 16 carries, 57 yards. George Kittle, 4 catches, 61 yards. Nothing for the defense. And well, that's pretty much the story there. Rams improved to 8-6. 49ers dropped to 6-8. For the Rams, next week, their next game will be on December 22nd, and they are going up against the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, in the Meadowlands. As for the 49ers, at 6-8, they will be heading up to Miami to take on good old MF Michael Fletcher's Miami Dolphins next week. So that's a 425er next week. So now, normally that would normally be, I could just say, that's all good and dandy in the whole 9 yards. Rams fully in playoff positioning now. They're half a game behind Seattle in the West, and we'll see what happens with Seattle. They got a tough one on Sunday night against the Green Bay Packers. But unfortunately, this game ended up being marred by one thing that really irked and disturbed myself and Michael Bullock. And I know not just us, but I'm sure football fans, let alone 49er fans as well.
And national pundits, too.
Oh, yes. The experts. Absolutely. The experts going off on respective shows like Rich Eisen and the First Take guys. And you name any sports talk show out there, they went off on this, and rightfully so. We don't have much time to go on a full-blown rant, but we are going to, because we have a lot of things to cover here this evening. But what we will do is we will bring it up briefly. Devondre Campbell took Noggin Diva. It's been a long time since we've uttered those words on any of our programs over the recent years, but Devondre Campbell took Noggin Diva to new levels last night. He basically quit on his team. That's basically what he did. And did you hear what George Kittle said during that press conference? I echo his sentiments. You're lucky it wasn't me, because if it was me, I would have been pounding that damn table. I would have been blurting out expletives. I would have gone on a profanity-laced tirade. That's what I would have done. He's lucky it wasn't me. How can a guy not only go into business for himself, but also quit on your team? I am not defending him when I say this, but I understand, the season has been a disappointment. A season ago, they were the number 1 seed in the NFC. They won the NFC Championship with that comeback for the ages against the Lions in the NFC Championship game. They got to the Super Bowl, took the Chiefs to the limit, only the second overtime game in Super Bowl history, and they lose in overtime. And I understand this year, 6-8, and a season marred by injuries, especially Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason and Nick Bosa and Trent Williams and Dre Greenlaw and Shavarius Ward and
Brandon Ayuk.
And Brandon Ayuk. Not only with injuries, but Brandon Ayuk with his contract dispute. But they got it rectified. They resolved it at the 11th hour. What I don't understand is, I get it. It's a frustrating season. It's a disappointing season. It's practically going nowhere. I get it. But as long as there's still games left to be played, their playoff hopes took a big hit last night. Absolutely, they did. But how can a guy in Devondre Campbell basically quit on his team like that and not even go into the game? Really? You're putting yourself first ahead of your own team? That, sir, makes you a quitter. You're a quitter as far as I'm concerned. And I feel bad for anybody who's a fan of this team, especially WWE superstar Bayley. We know how much Bayley loves her 49ers. And I can only imagine what went through her mind seeing this last night. I feel bad for all you 49er fans, and our hearts are with you. And, well, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, if I'm John Lynch in the front office of that team, the first thing you do, you get that nog and you get that diva out. O-U-T. Don't let the door hit you in the you-know-where on the way out. Quit on my team like that? Hell no. Dre Greenlaw played with he went into that game and he was hurt, but he still went and played. Shavarius Ward going through a very hard family crisis right now after his little baby girl, 1-year-old, mind you, passed away because of a serious heart condition. That little girl passed away. But did he play? Yeah, he did. Because that's how much he loves his team. I understand it's an emotional time, but at the same time, he has a job to do, like we all have jobs to do. And to you, Mr. Campbell, for you to walk out on your own team, desert your team, abandon your team, and most of all, quit on them, is a special place in you-know-where for people like that. Career of a lifetime. Right down the drain, kid. I hope you love it. I hope you love it. Like I said, we don't have much time to, fully go on, an epic rant or anything. We got a lot of things to get into here tonight, including the Army-Navy game, which we're going to do in just a moment. While I set up for that, Michael Bullock, dud of a game. I feel bad for Al and Herbie. They had to sit through that nonsense last night.
Mm-hmm.
Bad weather. I understand bad weather. It was raining.
Mm-hmm.
It was mud. That's a Michael Fletcher game right there. He loves those kind of games. Nothing wrong with that. Just like I love my snow games. You know that. And but unfortunately, the game's not the talking point. The Rams putting themselves in prime playoff position is not even the talking point. Unfortunately, this game is marred by an individual who went into business for himself, quit on his team, and made an already frustrating season even worse than it already was.
Yeah, and for the 49ers, I mean, this, as if they hadn't to deal so much, Florio, with the injuries and all that. Now they got to go and talk about this. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, they had so many injuries, and the coach was saying, "Hey, we need you in the game." And Devondre Campbell says, "No, I'm not playing. I'm taking a walk." What you did, if your job was to embarrass the 49ers, well, you did. But you also embarrassed yourself and the entire National Football League. I mean, the thing is, Florio, the 49ers were fighting for their playoff lives. And Devondre Campbell, when they needed him, I mean, I get it because Dre Greenlaw's back after his torn Achilles. And he lost some starting time. But at a point they really needed him, he decided to do this? No. That is totally unprofessional. That is childish. And even Kyle Shanahan said, I don't see him playing for the 49ers again. And they need to cut him. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, the rest of the ownership, you need to basically say, you're done. Get the you-know-what out of our building. And you want to know what the worst thing is, Florio? He's a free agent after the season. And you're going to tell me at this point that there's going to be some team that's going to want him after the kind of stunt he pulled?
Message to my Buffalo Bills, message to Brandon Beane, don't even look at him. Don't. We
And
got a good enough defense without him. We're fine.
And my message to Robert Kraft and to Elliot Wolf, do not, I repeat, do not even have any thought of looking at this guy. I mean, you want to talk about the Patriot way? You need to set a prime example of that. Saying, we're not going to accept this guy who's a quitter on our team. Yeah. You want to talk about throwing your career away? Yeah, you did exactly that, Devondre Campbell. I hope you love what you just did. And if I were, and it's not just the Buffalo Bills and my team, Florio. It's Fletcher's Dolphins. It's every single team in the National Football League should not, I repeat, should not even give a thought of signing this guy. You want to sign a quitter to this team, to any team? No, that's going to make you look very bad. You should be ashamed of yourself. I mean, I get it's been a frustrating season, but you just made this whole matter worse for your team. I mean, yes, the season hasn't gone well for the 49ers. Now, your team has to deal with this crap. And George Kittle, I mean, and Ward, I mean, they literally unleashed on him. I mean, I'm sure them and other guys are marching to ownership right now and saying, you need to get rid of this guy. He's a cancer to this locker room. I mean, for what he did was just totally unprofessional. So, do you, Devondre Campbell, you want to throw your career away? Well, you did what you did. I hope you love it. I mean, I've never seen a more disgusting display than what I saw Thursday night. Coach is telling you, we need you out there, and then you're saying, oh, I'm not going to play. Oh, because you lost your starting time because of Greenlaw coming back. Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. That's unprofessional. And if I was the coach of the 49ers, Florio, and I saw that happen, and he did that to me, I would immediately cut his ass before he even got to the locker room. That's what I would do.
Same here.
I wouldn't make sure. I'd say, you know what? Don't even bother heading back to the locker room. Get to the pack your things, get out of our building. You're done. You're finished. So, yeah, that's just, I don't know what else is there to say, man. This is just.
I would have called security and I would have had his ass thrown out of the building.
Yeah, exactly. Get his ass out of here.
And I also would have sent a message to, I also would have called up to Roger Goodell and the higher ups. I have one thing I need you to do. Suspend this guy's ass for the rest of the season without pay. Simple.
Exactly.
Hell, bar him for life. Bar him for life.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
I think they should do that too, but will it really happen? Probably not. But
at least the rest of the season without pay. At least hit him where
exactly.
It hurts. Hit him where it hurts, like he hit them where it hurts.
Yeah, exactly. So
and if they don't make the playoffs, well, this Hammernager jabroni is to blame for it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for the other players that have to answer to all this,
especially George Kittle.
Yeah.
George Kittle told it like it was, and I applaud him. I agree with everything he said during
and
that
Ward. And Ward.
And Travarius Ward, yes. Yes.
Two guys who literally spoke up and saying, hey, we're not defending this. What he did was totally unprofessional. So, I really don't know.
He deserves what he gets.
Yeah. You deserve whatever you get. You piece of shit. I'm sorry, Florio. I know this is your channel, but...
No, you have every right to do that. You have every right to do that.
I mean, that's what you are. You are an absolute piece of shit. You are an embarrassment. You're an embarrassment, not just to the 49ers, but to the entire National Football League. And I hope we never see your ass on the field again.
Unless you wake the F up and you change.
Period. End of quotation, end of statement, end of rant, done, finished. Florio, let's get on to some bigger and better things than this Hammernager jabroni.
Oh yeah, we got plenty of better things to get into, and we started off with tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern on CBS. It is the 2024 Army versus Navy game. The number 22 Army Black Knights squaring off against the Navy Midshipmen. Northwest Field or Northwest Stadium, formerly FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland. Of course, we know who's working this as always. It'll be Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, and Jenny Dell. And Army opening up as a 6-point favorite. And Navy leads the all-time series 62-55 with 7 ties. Army has won the last 2 meetings in a row. Of course, not only is this game on CBS, but you can also stream this game exclusively on Paramount Plus as well. Commander-in-Chief's trophy goes to the winner of this one. No two programs are intertwined with each other more than the 2 service academies, which meet on an annual basis. The rallying cries of Go Army, beat Navy, and Go Navy, beat Army resonate throughout the locker rooms in their home stadiums throughout the season. When you sign up to play football at Army and Navy, you're signing up for several things. One is to serve the country. The other is to beat the other service academy the second week of December. For the first time ever, Army and Navy share the same conference, adding even more competition for the programs throughout the year. And the 125th installment of this rivalry is unlike any before, as both service academies fielded stellar teams. Army enters this matchup at 11-1, fresh off its first ever conference championship, while Navy strolls in at 8-3. The combined 19 wins at kickoff will be the most in the storied rivalry's history. The urge to destroy the other team on the gridiron is high, but the respect shown post-game is even higher. It's college football's most unique rivalry, and that's why it is called America's game. So, with all that being said, we'll give a quick prediction here. The last 3 installments of the Army-Navy game, and 8 of the last 10 were decided by 1 possession. Even in years where Army had a stellar record and Navy didn't, and vice versa. This game is designed for limited possessions and limited scoring. Only once since 2014 has 21 points even been topped by either team. Although these Army and Navy offenses have more firepower than usual, the same formula should follow in this game, Expect this one to remain fairly close throughout, but Army emerges to secure its 12th win of 2024. I am going with Army to win the Army-Navy game. My final score, 21-13. Army defeats Navy in what should be a fun game tomorrow afternoon, and one I'm very much looking forward to seeing, as always. So give me Army 21-13. So Michael Bullock, the 125th edition of America's Game, Army and Navy, FedEx Field, Landover, Maryland, on CBS. And by the way, get used to it being on CBS. It's going to stay on CBS all the way up until 2038. How about that?
Oh, yeah, I love that. I love that. So, yeah, I mean, I cannot wait for this. I mean, the 125th edition of Army and Navy. I mean, this is going to be a really good one, but I'm with you, Florio. At the end of the day, I think Army is the better team here. They will get the best of Navy in this one, so I'm going with Army to win this one. So there's really nothing more for me to say except let's move on to the rest of the Week 15 slate in the NFL, and
no more buys.
And there's no more buys. We're done with the buys, and
Yep.
It's a rarity, Florio, that both networks actually have double headers.
Yes, you beat me to it. That I was about to mention that. Yes. Normally you would get this at the and I wouldn't be surprised if they do this again for the final week, but like Bullock said,
and that's the thing. I mean, because normally we would get this at the end of the season, but Week 15, and we're getting doubleheaders on both networks.
And that's why this is a loaded week, and we're here for it. We got our games at 1 p.m. We have our games at 4:25. This is a loaded week, friends. It really, really is. As you look at it, I mean, we already had our Thursday night game. We 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have only 7 early games, 5 late games, Sunday night football, and a Monday night football doubleheader. 2 Monday night games. One a little more appealing than the other, if I'm going to be honest with you. But nonetheless, here we go. First up on the docket this week, a game that can be seen over on Fox. It will feature the Dallas Cowboys squaring off against the Carolina Panthers from Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. And on the call for Fox, it'll be Joe Davis, Greg Olson, and Pam Oliver. And Carolina opening up as a 3-point favorite. Dallas, however, leads the all-time series regular season 11-3, including winning the last 2 meetings in a row. They played in Charlotte last year, and Dallas went into Charlotte and smashed Carolina 33-10. Carolina last beat Dallas in 2018, overall and at home. That was a 16-8 final. So with that being said, let's get into our first action of the week. Last week's loss to Cincinnati left the Cowboys as down as they have been all season. So how do the players respond on a short week against the Panthers, who have played better of late? The players have continued to battle under coach Mike McCarthy, but this will be his biggest challenge to date, with leaders such as quarterback Dak Prescott and Zach Martin out for the season. A 2-game winning streak had the Cowboys dreaming of a playoff run. At 5-8, they are not out of the chase yet, but a loss to the Panthers would mean their first sub-500 finish since 2020. The Panthers are favored for the first time in 34 games going back to 2022 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost that game, but the fact they are favored this week shows how well they've played in 3 consecutive close losses, including 22-16 last week at Philadelphia. Quarterback Bryce Young is a big reason. His 60 total QBR since week 9 is better, believe it or not, than Patrick Mahomes, and better than those of the 3 other quarterbacks in the NFC South. The Cowboys and Panthers have 2 of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL. Carolina ranks last in rush yards allowed a game at 170, and Dallas ranks 30th at about 142. What's at stake? The Panthers hold a 10-point and almost 11% chance to get the number 1 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, which are the 3rd highest odds per ESPN's FPI, behind those of the New York Giants at 41% and Michael Bullock's New England Patriots at 24%. Their chances increase to 19% with a loss. Dallas is the FPI favorite, but it's only 53%. And I'm going to be honest with you. This is a tough one to call. This is one of the tough games of the week to call here. That ain't no lie. But at the end of the day, based on what I've seen, I might be going against the grain here, but I'm actually thinking about going with Carolina in this game, although Dallas is the consensus favorite. I mean, it's a tough one to call. It really is. I know Carolina's favored, but man, this is tough. But I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to go with Dallas to win this one. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I say Dallas wins. I'm going to say the final will be, I'm going to go 28-24. I will go with Dallas to beat Carolina. But if Carolina were to win this game, I certainly wouldn't be surprised with how well they're playing. So 28-24, Dallas wins for me. So Michael Bullock, Dallas, and Carolina to kick off our loaded Week 15 slate.
Yeah, this is tough. I mean, Dallas and Carolina, that's going to be it should be a close game here, but I'm with you. I'm actually going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. I just think they're the slightly better team, but if Carolina were to win this game, so I would not at all be surprised, but I just think Dallas to me is the much better team, so I'm gonna slightly go with Dallas to win this one, but like you said, if Carolina wins, I would not at all be surprised. So Dallas wins, but I'm not too confident with it. So it's yours, Florio.
Yeah, I'm not all that confident either. So, all right. Next up, we switch to our side of the ledger. This is our number 4 game of the week, as it will feature the Kansas City Chiefs squaring off against the Cleveland Browns from Cleveland Browns Stadium in Cleveland. This game is on CBS, and it'll be Ian Eagle, Charles Davis, and Evan Washburn. They will have the call of this game. And the spread favors Kansas City, but it's only by 4. The spread is only 4 for Kansas City. Series history, regular season, it favors Kansas City 14-11 with 2 ties. And including the playoffs, the Chiefs have won 5 straight meetings against the Browns. Their last meeting was week 1 of the 2021 season at Arrowhead. Kansas City won that 33-29. Last meeting in Cleveland was in 2018. Kansas City won that game as well, 37-21. The Browns last beat the Chiefs at home and overall back in 2012, and they smashed the Chiefs in that game, 30-7. So, not much more to say here. Michael Bullock, Kansas City, and Cleveland. It's our number 4 game of the week. And Kansas City, we know what they've been known for these last few weeks, ever since the Buffalo game. Every win they've had has literally been down to the wire. And Cleveland, yes, they only have 3 wins, but let's not forget, 2 of them were against the likes of Baltimore and Pittsburgh at home, and this game is in Cleveland. Should Kansas City be on upset alert? I think so.
I think so too. And because remember, Florio, I mean, last week, Kansas City barely won again, and by the meaning of the word doink on that one, because it was, I mean, if it weren't for that kick, I mean, who knows what would have happened if this game against the Chargers had gone into overtime? Who knows? But this is why I've said, I mean, part of me wants to go with Kansas City, but like you said, with the way Cleveland plays at home against these good teams, they hung around with them. And with the way Kansas City's been playing, who knows? I mean, but I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to win this one. But don't be surprised, especially with the way, like you said, Floyd, with the way Cleveland's played against Baltimore. And who else was it?
When it was Baltimore, and it was also Pittsburgh in that memorable snowstorm.
Yeah, in Pittsburgh. So who knows? They could shock us again and give us one of the biggest upsets of the season. So, but I'm gonna go with Kansas City to win this one. But I would not be surprised, Florio, if Cleveland shocks the world again.
Oh yeah, right there with you. So, okay, okay. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes has been sacked 13 times in the last 3 games, and already more times, 35, than ever in a season. His previous high was 28 in 2021. Now the Chiefs face reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett, with a shaky tackle situation. Mahomes made the passing game work last Sunday night against the Chargers, despite heavy pressure by throwing many quick passes. But the Chiefs would prefer more big pass plays, which will be difficult to get without improved protection. Can Browns quarterback Jameis Winston remain patient and stack methodical scoring drives against a cheap defense that has allowed the second fewest explosive plays, 64, in the NFL through Week 14? Winston has provided more explosiveness in the passing game, but he also has been turnover prone, leading the league with 9 interceptions since he took over as the starter in Week 8. Limiting Kansas City's possessions will be key if the Browns want to pull off the upset. Browns wide receiver Jerry Jeudy has 50-plus receiving yards in 6 consecutive games, which is the longest of his career. What's at stake? The Chiefs have a 77% chance to earn the number 1 seed in the AFC per ESPN Analytics. That number rises to 87% with a win, but would fall with a loss. It would fall down to 61%. The FPI gives it to Kansas City, 59% going with Kansas City. Yes, I'm going to go with Kansas City to win as well, but I certainly would not be surprised if the Browns were to pull this mammoth upset. I mean, beating Baltimore and Pittsburgh is one thing, but when you beat a team that's currently in a dynasty right now, who's won the last 2 Super Bowls and are heavy favorites to make it a third, if they pull this off, that would be massive. But for now, I wouldn't be surprised.
Just like how close Cleveland was to upsetting Kansas City in that playoff game.
Oh, that playoff game. Oh. When Patrick
Even
Mahomes
though it
was
with
injured.
Limited fans, but my goodness.
Patrick Mahomes goes down with an injury. It was all up to Chad Henne, and yet Chad Henne somehow found a way to win. Surprising.
Yeah.
Boy, what could have been if that had happened. But story for another day. But I'm going to go with Kansas City for now because of the they always find a way to win mantra that they're currently on right now. 23-20. I think Kansas City will eke it out and escape Cleveland with another win. So with all that being said, let's move on now to one of our big games of the week. This is, when it comes to our side of the ledger, this is our number 2 game of the week. And this is going to be a good one as far as I'm concerned. This is going to be a good one right here. It'll feature good old MF's Miami Dolphins squaring off against the Houston Texans, NRG Stadium, formerly Reliant Stadium in Houston. On CBS, Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, and Melanie Collins, they will have the call for that one. And the spread favors Houston. Houston opening up as a 3-point favorite. And in the series history between these two, it favors Houston. Houston leads the all-time series 8-3, but the Dolphins have won the last 2 meetings in a row, but both of those games were in Miami. Last meeting was 2022 in Miami. Miami won 30-15. The last meeting in Houston was in 2018. Houston won that one 42-23. And an interesting fun fact here, the Miami Dolphins have never won in Houston. The 3 wins against Houston were all in Miami. They have never won at Reliant/NRG Stadium. So with that, let's get into our number 2 game of the week here. Just try to find it here. All right. Keep an eye on the turnover battle. Houston's defense intercepts passes at the second highest rate in the NFL at 3.72%. Miami, on the other hand, has thrown interceptions on just 1.1% of its pass attempts this season, the 4th lowest rate in the league. Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa has thrown 11 touchdowns to 0 interceptions in his last 4 games and has a 15-1 touchdown to interception ratio in 7 games since returning from injured reserve. Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud has had the second most dropbacks, 252, against 2 split coverage. And the Dolphins run split safety looks on 47% of opposing quarterbacks' dropbacks. That could be a problem for Stroud, as he has a QBR of 36, which is 30th when facing split safety coverages, and is completing 63% of his passes, which is 27th with 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Also, the Texans have a rushing success rate of 34% against 2 high coverage, 3rd worst. Tua Tagovailoa has completed 70% or more of his passes in 7 straight games, which is the longest streak in Miami Dolphins history, and tied for the 2nd longest in a season. Only Hall of Famer Joe Montana, with 8 straight in 1989, has a longer streak since this was first tracked in 1933. And what's at stake for these teams? Well, for the Dolphins, they hold they only have a 14% chance of making the playoffs, according to ESPN Analytics. If they win, that number would almost double to 27%. But if they lose, it'll go down all the way down to 4%. 4%, that's it. And for the Texans, it's simple. A win, if they win, and if Indianapolis loses to Denver, which we'll get to later on, the Houston Texans would clinch the AFC South Division for the 2nd year in a row. Houston is the FPI favorite, 55% going with the Houston Texans, and I am going with the Houston Texans to win this game as well. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game between 2 dynamo offenses, but I got the Houston Texans winning this one. My final score, 31-28. Houston defeats Miami and takes one step closer to their 2nd straight AFC South Division title, depending on what Indianapolis does at Denver, which we'll get into later. So 31-28, Houston wins. So Michael Bullock, our number 2 game of the week, the Miami Dolphins and the Houston Texans. Houston closing in on the division. A win and a Colts loss, and the division is theirs for the 2nd year in a row, while the Miami Dolphins playing for their playoff lives, 14% right now. It goes to 27% if they win. If they lose, 4%. Yikes.
Yeah, but yeah, I got to go with the Houston Texans to win this one. I mean, I think they're the better team, and I think they'll be able to handle their business with Indianapolis. So give me the Houston Texans. So let's move on to our next game.
They're playing Miami, Bullock.
Oh, Miami. I'm sorry. It's just so much on my mind right now.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, our little rant from earlier.
Yeah, and something else too. So which I won't get into. So I stand corrected. Give me the Houston Texans to beat the Miami Dolphins. I mean, the Miami Dolphins. I mean, look. I mean, they got the weapons. They got everything they need. But I just think Houston is the better team completely, offensively and defensively. So I'm going to go with the Houston Texans to beat the Miami Dolphins. So let's move on to the next game.
Okay. And the next one goes to Fox, and this is one of their dud games of the week. This is one of the duds of the week here, as it'll feature the New York Jets squaring off against the Jacksonville Jaguars from TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville. And on the call for this game on Fox, it'll be Chris Myers, Mark Schlereth, and Jen Hale. And spread favors the Jets. The Jets are opening up as 3.5-point favorites. Jacksonville leads the regular season series 9-7. Their last meeting was 2022 in New York. Jacksonville won that one 19-3. Jets last beat the Jags in 2021. That was also in New York, 26-21. Last meeting in Jacksonville, 2019. Jacksonville won 29-15. The Jets have not won in Jacksonville since 2012. 17-10 was the final back in 2012. So Michael Bullock, one of the dud games of the week, the New York Jets and the Jacksonville Jaguars, pretty much for draft positioning. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is pretty much only for like draft positioning, like you said. So, not gonna waste too much time on this. I'm gonna have to go with the Jets here, but I would not be surprised if Jacksonville wins. So, it's yours, Florio.
Yeah, it's the Jets, but I'll get into that in just a moment. Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers is coming off his most prolific game of the season, 339 passing yards, as the Jets offense continues to show signs of improvement. New York has scored 74 points in the last 3 games, a relative explosion. The Jaguars are allowing a league-high 391 yards a game, but they play a lot of man-to-man coverage, and that causes problems for the Jets. Rodgers ranks 29th out of 33 qualified quarterbacks in QBR at 45 against man-to-man. In his last 5 starts, 3 with the Jaguars, 2 with the Patriots, quarterback Mac Jones is 1-4 and has averaged 145.6 passing yards a game. And he has also thrown 8 interceptions with 0 touchdown passes. And his teams have scored a combined 36 points. Now he faces a Jet defense that ranks 4th in yards allowed per game at just about 307 and passing yards allowed a game at about 187. The Jaguars defense ranks last in yards allowed a game, 396. That's on pace to be Jacksonville's second highest yards a game allowed through a season in franchise history. Back in 2020, they allowed close to 418 yards a game. Oof. The Jaguars and the Jets have both been eliminated from the playoff race, and both could be picking in the top 5 of the 2025 draft. Jacksonville currently has a 54% chance, and the Jets have a 36% chance at a top 5 selection per ESPN's FPI. The FPI goes with the Jets, 63% going with the New York Jets, and I'm going with the New York Jets to win as well. I'm gonna say final score will be 20-13. 20-13. I'm going with the New York Jets to defeat the Jacksonville Jaguars. Next up, just checking to see how. I think we have only 3 more left here. Next up, we have the Washington Commanders squaring off against the New Orleans Saints from the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. And this game can be found, of course, on Fox. And I believe it is Kenny Albert's crew working this one. Yes, Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, and Megan Levy. They will have the call in the Superdome, and the spread favors Washington. Washington opening up as a 7.5-point favorite. Washington leads the all-time series 17-11. The Saints, however, have won the last 3 meetings in a row. Last meeting was 2021 in Washington. Saints won that one 33-22. Last meeting in New Orleans was 2018. Saints smashed Washington 43-19. Washington last beat New Orleans overall in 2015. In Washington, smashed them 47-14. And the last time Washington won in New Orleans, got to go back to week 1 of 2012, when Washington won a shootout 40-32, thanks to a huge day from Robert Griffin III. I remember that very vividly. So let's get into Washington and New Orleans here. As soon as I find it here. Okay. Commanders cornerback Marshawn Lattimore will probably make his Commanders debut this week against the team that traded him on November 5th. Lattimore has missed his last 5 games because of a hamstring injury. Washington has been mum on how it will use him, but the Commanders know he has excelled at press man coverage. In the first 13 games, Washington ranked 13th in number of times it played press man. As Lattimore settles in, that number should increase. Saints quarterback Derek Carr is both in the concussion protocol and nursing a hand injury that will cause him to miss time. On Thursday, a source told ESPN's Jeremy Fowler that after interim coach Darren Rizzi held an open competition in practice this week, the Saints plan to start Jake Haener over rookie Spencer Rattler if Carr is ruled out. Saints running back Alvin Kamara is 62 rushing yards from reaching the first 1,000-yard rushing season of his career. That's nutty. The Commanders have an 85% chance to make the playoffs per ESPN Analytics. A win, and those odds would improve to 92%, but if they lose, it'll drop down to 68%, which is still respectable. The Saints, however, have less than a 1% shot to make the playoffs. The FPI loves Washington here. 70% going with the Washington Commanders, and I'm going with the Washington Commanders as well. Here's the thing. If somehow, some way Derek Carr plays, Washington will win 28-21. But if he doesn't, then I'm going with Washington to win rather comfortably 30-13. But regardless, I'm going with the Washington Commanders to win this one. So not much more to say here. Michael Bullock, your thoughts on Washington and New Orleans in the Superdome? Bullock, are you there? Okay. I think we may have lost Bullock for a moment. Hopefully, I think he might have stepped away, but we'll just wait for him to rejoin us. So as soon as he does, we'll get his thoughts on the Commanders and the Saints. So with that, I'll just set up for the next game and await his return. Let's see who's up. Okay, 1 second here. We just did Washington and New Orleans, so okay, I believe this is our Zonk game of the week up next, as it will feature the Baltimore Ravens squaring off against the New York Giants, MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey in the Meadowlands. Andrew Catalan, Tiki Barber, Jason McCourty, and AJ Ross. And the Baltimore Ravens opening up as the biggest spread we've had all season long. This is the biggest spread that I have seen to date on our show. Baltimore opening up as a 16-point favorite. 16, the spread for Baltimore. Baltimore leads the regular season series 4-3. Last meeting was in New York in 2022, and the Giants actually won that game 24-20. Baltimore last beat the Giants in 2020 in Baltimore 27-13. The Ravens have won at the Giants once, and that was all the way back in their very first meeting, all the way back in 1997, when Baltimore defeated the Giants 24-23 at the old Giants Stadium. And of course, let's not forget, these two teams met in Super Bowl 35 back in January of 2001 at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, when Baltimore smashed the Giants in that one 34-7. So with that, let's get into our Zonk game of the week. This has the makings of a huge day for Ravens running back Derrick Henry and the Ravens rushing attack. The Giants are giving up almost 5 yards a carry this season, which is tied for the franchise's second worst performance over the last 2 decades. Baltimore is averaging 5.72 yards per rush attempt, which is the second best in NFL history, behind the 1963 Cleveland Browns. With Tommy DeVito starting at quarterback, the Giants will try to get the ball downfield, especially against the Ravens' 32nd ranked pass defense. Baltimore has allowed almost 265 passing yards a game this season. In the 3 games since moving on from Daniel Jones, the Giants have attempted 13 passes of 20-plus yards with DeVito and Drew Lock, who is out with a heel injury, at quarterback, 7th most in the NFL. Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson has 29 passing touchdowns this season, which is the second most in the NFL behind Cincinnati's Joe Burrow and his 33, and already his most since having 36 in his unanimous MVP season in 2019. The Ravens are still in the hunt for the AFC North division title, holding a 20% chance to win the division compared with Pittsburgh's 80%. Their odds would slightly improve to 23% with a win and fall all the way down to 6% with a loss. Overwhelming FPI favorite for Baltimore, 82% going with the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens to win this one as well. 34-17, Baltimore all over the Giants in our Zonk game of the week. So 34-17, Baltimore. They take it. So Michael Bullock, if you're back in, come on in. As we got to get your thoughts on the Commanders and the Saints, and also our Zonk game of the week here. So all right. So okay. All right, I'm guessing all right, so I guess I'm guessing Bullock is still probably had to, I'm sure he had to step away for something. So we'll hopefully get him back soon enough. Got some great things to get into here. So so with that being said, we're going to move on to our next matchup, which will feature, and I think this should be our last early game of the week. Yes, it is. A renewal of an old AFC Central Division rivalry over on Fox. It'll feature the Cincinnati Bengals squaring off against the Tennessee Titans from Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. Kevin Kugler, Daryl Moose Johnston, and Laura Oakman, they will be on the call for that one. And just checking the spread here. The spread favors Cincinnati. Cincinnati opening up as a 5-point favorite. And the series history between these former division rivals, it favors Tennessee 41-35 with a tie. Their last meeting was last year in Nashville. Tennessee smashed Cincinnati 27-3. Cincinnati last beat Tennessee in Nashville and overall the year before in 2022, winning that one by a score of 20-16. So let me get into this one here. Oh, hold on. Oh, Bullock, you're back in. Okay, I apologize for that. I was just getting into my notes here.
Yeah,
all right.
I just had to step away for a minute to do a little something.
Oh, no problem. No problem. All right. Let's get your thoughts on let's get your thoughts on the couple of games you missed. The Washington Commanders and the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Washington Commanders to win this one.
And our Zonk game of the week, the Baltimore Ravens and the New York Giants. Baltimore opening up as a 16-point favorite, oh, by the way.
Yeek. Yeah, Baltimore wins this one handily.
And the game that I was just breaking down here, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Tennessee Titans, and it would have been my turn anyway. So
yeah.
So
you go ahead and finish up.
I'll finish this up, and then I'll give it to you, and then you'll lead off on our next set. So, which ironically is your team, believe it or not. So, okay. So let me just find it in my notes here. Okay. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow is going up against one of his most imposing foes in Titans defensive lineman Jeffrey Simmons. Simmons has 3.5 sacks and 10 pressures in 3 career games versus the Bengals, including Cincinnati's playoff win in 2021. And Burrow has a 0.4 QBR when Simmons gets the first pressure. But Burrow is ready. He said, and I quote, "This year, I'm making plays at a much higher rate than I ever had before outside of the structure." Jamar Chase leads all wide receivers in receptions at 93, yards 1,319, and touchdowns 15. But the Titans' pass defense is tops in the league, allowing almost 176 yards a game. Rookie cornerback Jarvis Brownlee Jr. is looking forward to the matchup. He said he's one of the top receivers. You live for moments like this. Every week has been a challenge for me as a rookie, but this week is an opportunity to keep putting the NFL on notice. The Titans' loss to the Jaguars last Sunday clinched their 3rd straight season with 10 or more losses. It's the first time the franchise has done that since 1983 to 1986, when the team was known as the Houston Oilers. Although the Titans have been knocked out of the playoffs, believe it or not, the Bengals still have a 3% chance at the playoffs after their Monday night win in Dallas. The FPI goes with Cincinnati. FPI gives Cincinnati 62% to win. And I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals to win this one as well. Final score, I'm going to go 35-20. Cincinnati defeats Tennessee. So not much more to say. Michael Bullock, our final early game of the week, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Tennessee Titans, a renewal of an old AFC Central Division rivalry. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Cincinnati Bengals to win this one as well. So I mean, they need for something miraculous to happen if they have any shot. But shot of getting into the playoffs, which I don't see happening. So Cincinnati wins. I think we're getting to the late games now, Florio.
Yes, sir. Both networks will have double headers. 5 425 games, and we started off with the game that we have as our number 5 game of the week. And here you go, Bullock. It's your team, the New England Patriots, squaring off against the Arizona Cardinals, State Farm Stadium, formerly University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. You can find this game over on CBS. And it'll be Tom McCarthy, Jay Feely, Ross Tucker, and Amanda Balionis. They will be on the call for that one. And the spread favors Arizona. Arizona opening up as a 6-point favorite. Series history favors New England. New England leads the all-time series 9-7. And the Patriots have actually won 3 in a row against Arizona, including the last meeting in Arizona 2 years ago. New England won 27-13. Cardinals last beat the Patriots in Foxborough in 2012. That was a 20-18 final. The Cardinals have not beaten the Patriots at home. Last time the Cardinals beat the Patriots at home, you got to go all the way back to 1991. 1991, when they were the Phoenix Cardinals. And they defeated the Patriots 24-10 at the old Sun Devil Stadium.
And yes, folks, they did. The Patriots did beat the Cardinals back in 2016 when Tom Brady wasn't even the starter.
That's right. Yes. That was also in Arizona. That was week one of that season when Tom Brady was serving that infamous 4-game suspension for the infamous Deflategate nonsense. Jimmy Garoppolo. That was Jimmy Garoppolo, who led New England to a 23-21 win. And that was the start of the 3-game winning streak against the Cardinals.
And it wasn't just no Brady. There was also no Gronk, no Ninkovich, and yet somehow, some way, they pulled it off.
Amazing. So, but this time around, Bullock, I don't see that happening here. New England and Arizona, our number 5 game of the week, leading off our loaded late game slot.
Yeah, I mean, this time around, it's been a tough go around for the Patriots. I mean, I just think they need to finish the season strong if they want to take something going into next season, especially. But I have been impressed with Drake May, with the way he's played since becoming the starter, but everybody else really needs to step up if they want to at least have a chance here. But at the end of the day, I got to go with the Arizona Cardinals to win this one. They really need this more, especially with the way that NFC West race is going. So I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals. It's yours, Florio.
Yeah. Right there with you, but let me just okay. And I'm gonna back up what Bullock just said here. Patriots rookie quarterback Drake May, 345 yards and a touchdown, and Cardinals 6-year quarterback Kyler Murray, 444 yards, 4 touchdowns, have combined for 789 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns this season. This reflects how both teams' defensive plans to limit quarterback scrambles could be the key. Before the Patriots bye, Drake May's 41-yard run in a Week 13 loss at home to Indianapolis tied for the 3rd longest run by a quarterback in Patriots history. This might be the game the Cardinals offense breaks out of its red zone rut. Arizona's red zone rate in the last 3 games, all losses, 18.2%, compared with 63.3% in the first 10 games when Arizona was 6-4. It's hosting a Patriots team that is tied for 21st in red zone defense, allowing a rate of about 61%. Helping the Cardinals' chances of finding their red zone rhythm is the Patriots' defensive struggles in goal-to-goal situations. They've allowed touchdowns on 80% of chances, while Arizona has scored touchdowns on just 25% of its red zone trips in the last 3 weeks. The Cardinals have lost 3 games in a row after a 4-game winning streak. During that span, their 15 points a game ranks 29th in the league. For the Cardinals, they still have a narrow chance at the playoffs with 9% odds. It would increase to only 10% with a win, but drop to 4% with an upset loss. Overwhelming FPI favorite for Arizona, 72% going with the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals as well. Sorry, Bullock. Arizona wins. My final score, 24-17. Arizona defeats New England. We're 1 game away from the big one. We have one other game we have to get into first. It's our number 3 game of the week. The Indianapolis Colts squaring off against the Denver Broncos in Power Field at Mile High in Denver. Spiro Ditas, Anna Marcelletta, and Aditi Quincabuela will have the call for CBS. And the spread in that one favors Denver. Denver opening up as a 4-point favorite. And the series history between these two, it favors... Oh, went a little too high on that one. It favors... Oh, boy. Okay, I got it now. It's Denver. Denver leads the regular season series 14-12. The Colts, however, have won the last 2 meetings in a row. Last meeting was 2022 in Denver. Colts won an ugly game, 12-9 in overtime. Broncos last beat the Colts in Indianapolis in 2017, 25-13. Their last home win against Indy was in 2016, 34-20. So let's get into our number 3 game of the week. Sunday's game is massive for the Colts because the Broncos are their primary challenger for the final AFC wildcard spot, but the Colts haven't fared well in pivotal late-season games in recent years. A couple of notable failures include last season's Week 18 loss at home to Houston that determined the winner of the AFC South. And in 2021, with the Colts poised to clinch a playoff spot easily, they shockingly lost to the Las Vegas Raiders and Jacksonville Jaguars in weeks 17 and 18, respectively, knocking Indianapolis out of the playoffs. The Broncos, who lead the league with 47 sacks, must solve Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson. He is last in the league in completion percentage at 47.4%, but he is also continually on the hunt for the big play as he leads the NFL in air yards per attempt at 12.1. The Broncos can't get lulled by the incompletions and let Richardson make the 1 or 2 difference-making plays in the game Denver desperately needs to strengthen its playoff chances. The Colts have the second easiest remaining schedule of any team in the NFL. Only the Atlanta Falcons have an easier finishing slate. Big stakes for both teams in this game. The Broncos' chances at the playoffs increase to 92% with a win, but would drop to 50% with a loss, per ESPN Analytics. The Colts' odds at the playoffs would improve to 53% with a win, but a loss would drop them all the way down to 6%. Oof. The FPI goes with Denver, 57% going with the Denver Broncos, and I am going to go with the Denver Broncos to win this game as well. And I'm going to go with the same score as I did for the last game. I'm going to say 24-17. I am going with the Denver Broncos to defeat the Indianapolis Colts. So not much more to say on that. Michael Bullock, our number 3 game of the week, major playoff implications for both teams. You heard the numbers. Indy and Denver, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is big for both squads here. I mean, they want to somehow get into the playoffs, but I've just been so impressed with this Denver Broncos team, especially under Bo Nix. So, I mean, I think he could be up there for when it comes to offensive rookies of the year. I mean, especially with, I mean, not many people knew what to expect out of them, but I think they really. So I'm gonna go with the Denver Broncos as well. So that being said, Florio, let's. I think we're getting into our two big games that are on the docket.
The first half of our big double main event. It's one on each side, one on our side and one on their side. And both of these games are Super Bowl previews, oh, by the way. This one, maybe a little more so. But here we go. For us, this is our game of the week. Heck, you could consider it maybe our game of the year to this point. A game so big, the NFL Today pregame show will be there on location. The Buffalo Bills squaring off against the Detroit Lions, Ford Field in Detroit. And in a game of this magnitude, there's only one team that can do it. Hello, friends. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson. Detroit opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. Buffalo, however, leads the all-time series 7-4 with a tie. The one tie came in their very first meeting in 1972. They played to a tie in Buffalo. And good news, Bills Mafia. Buffalo has won the last 4 meetings in a row against the Lions, including the last meeting, Thanksgiving 2022 in Detroit. Buffalo won it 28-25 on a last-second field goal by Tyler Bass. Bills have won 4 in a row. And the last time the Lions beat the Bills overall and at home, you got to go back to 2006, 20-17 at Ford Field. But the Bills have won 4 straight in this matchup, in this series. So I don't know what else there is for me to say. Michael Bullock, with MF not here, that makes you the Tony Romo to my Jim Nantz, whereas MF, of course, is the Phil Simms to my Jim Nantz. But now more than ever, with a game of this magnitude, a possible Super Bowl preview, the Super Bowl that this nation, this great nation of ours, wants to see more than any other, including myself and my older brother, Nick, who's a Lions fan. So this is a brother-brother matchup between me and my brother here. And we are going to be hanging out and watching this game. I can't wait to do it with him. And, oh, boy. So, Super Bowl preview, man. First of 2. But I think this is a slightly more Super Bowl preview here. Buffalo looking to bounce back from that demoralizing loss to the Rams. Whereas the Lions, they barely got by Green Bay last Thursday night. So now, as the Tony Romo to my Jim Nantz, and with MF out more than ever, do that thing I like in our game of the week, maybe of the year. Hello, friends.
Like you said, this is definitely going to be a Super Bowl preview, no doubt. And I mean, Detroit is the hottest team in the National Football League right now. And Buffalo, I mean, like you said, coming off of a demoralizing loss to the Rams, I mean, the offense definitely wasn't the problem. I mean, but the defense was, and they need to really work on it because you're going up against a team that's really on fire offensively. I mean, with Jared Goff, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, I mean, Montgomery, I mean, all those weapons. I mean, what Ben Johnson has done with that offense is just unbelievable. And of course, also defensively, I mean, for the Lions, they need to find a way how to shut down Josh Allen because remember last week, Florio? I mean, Josh Allen almost won that game for the Buffalo Bills with the way he did, not just with his arm, but with his legs too.
3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. First player in NFL history to ever do that.
And this is why I said so many times, this is why he needs to be in the MVP conversation.
Amen.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's nothing against the others who are in it, like Lamar Jackson and Saquon Barkley. Yeah. But you got to put Josh Allen in there with the way he's done, especially with what he did last week.
And of course, what he also did in that snow game against San Francisco the week before.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the Detroit Lions to beat them, they need to slow down Josh Allen and the rest of that Bills offense. They need to get. And the one thing I've always said, Florio, you need to keep Josh Allen in the pocket because when he gets outside the pocket, that's where he can do his damage, not just with his arms, but with his legs. And that's what the Lions need to do here, because if he gets outside the pocket, it's going to be a tough afternoon for that Lions defense. And for the Bills defense, they got to really patch things up and, like I said, slow down that offense. It's going to be a very good game. This could go either way.
Literally.
But you said this was in Detroit, right?
Yes, it is. And the NFL Today pregame show will be there, too.
And here's the thing. If this game was in Buffalo, I would definitely go with the Buffalo Bills. Because, look, you got that rowdy crowd, you got Bills Mafia. But this game is in Detroit, and I'm going to slightly give the edge to the Detroit Lions. It's going to be a high-scoring affair, like we saw last week. I'm going to go 45-41. Detroit just barely edging the Buffalo Bills in a Super Bowl preview. But I would not at all be surprised if Buffalo pulls this one out. So, Super Bowl preview, Florio, doesn't get any bigger than this. This is a game that could go either way.
Like Jesse the Body Ventura said at WrestleMania 5, you know how he said it. This is truly what the words main event were meant for, because this right here, this is the main event. Brother, it don't get no bigger.
You're damn right.
With the exception of one other game, of course, which is just as big, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Now then, CBS is sending its NFL Today pregame show on the road for this one, and that is worth it. This has the highest over-under total of the week at 54.5 points, and it features two great teams that enter at 10-3 and 12-1 respectively. The Bills are coming off that tough 44-42 road loss at Los Angeles against the Rams, so it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back. Meanwhile, the Lions, 2.5-point home favorites, have not lost since September 15th at home against Tampa Bay, but only won their last two games by 3 points each. While the Buffalo offense gets a lot of the ink around the team, defensive end Greg Rousseau is a player to watch. He has a team-high 6.5 sacks on the season, plus 42 tackles, but was held to just one assisted tackle and no sacks last week. For Detroit, safety Kirby Joseph has a team-high 7 interceptions this year and recorded 3 solo tackles and an assisted tackle in their 34-31 win over the Green Bay Packers last Thursday. Bear with me for a moment. Okay. Can the Bills' defense rebound from last week's loss to the Rams? The unit is coming off its worst performance of the season, allowing 44 points and conversions on 11 of 15 third down attempts. A significant challenge awaits in the league's highest scoring offense, 32 points a game. Bills coach Sean McDermott said on the defense bouncing back, and I quote, "I think we've got to get back to good fundamental football. I think that's really where it starts, and playing with a certain attitude." The Lions are aware that this could be a Super Bowl 59 preview, but the mindset entering this week is not any different. 3 of the 4 NFC North teams have at least 9 wins, so Detroit has been tested within its division en route to clinching a playoff spot already. Safety Kirby Joseph is one of the guys in the locker room who is not allowing teammates to make this game any bigger than what it is. He said, and I quote, "Going against a team like this, I feel like they've got guys, but we've got guys also. It's just a competition to go head-to-head against the best." The Bills have scored 30-plus points in 7 straight games, which is the longest streak in franchise history, and one shy of the longest in NFL history. Big stakes for both teams in this one. The Lions currently have a 76% chance to earn the number 1 seed in the NFC, according to ESPN Analytics. If they win, those odds would increase to 85%. The Bills, their odds of earning the number 1 seed in the AFC increase to 30% if they should somehow steal one here. The FPI is going with Detroit. No surprise. 58% going with the Detroit Lions. You know me. You know I believe in you know how much I believe in my Buffalo Bills. I believe in this team like I believe in Joe Henry. For goodness sakes. I so badly want to go with them. I really do. It's hard for me. It is not often that I go against my team, but this may be the one time I just may end up doing so. And I have every right to do that. But if I am wrong on this, then I am wrong on this. And I will, as the old saying goes, I'll eat the slice of humble pie and I will like it. Even though my gut is telling me to actually go against my team, I just don't have it in my heart to do it. I am actually going to go with my Buffalo Bills to win this game. My final score, I think they're going to steal this one at Ford Field, just like they did 2 years ago on Thanksgiving. And I think it will come down to another last-second field goal by Tyler Bass. 33-30. I don't have it as high scoring as Bullock does. But I think Buffalo can somehow pull this out. I think the defense will somehow bounce back, and I think they could make that one big play that they should have made a week ago. Like I said, if I'm wrong, I am wrong, and I will live with it. But I believe in my team like I believe in Joe Henry. I think they can shock the world here. 33-30. I'm going with Buffalo to beat Detroit. But would I be surprised if Detroit wins this game? Abso-freaking-lutely not. They need a bounce back. They need a get right. It's not going to quite be a get right. That'll be next week for sure. But I believe in them. So I'll take a chance and I'm going to go against the odds. I don't often do that, but in this case, I am going with it. So with that being said, let's move on to our next late afternoon game. Another good one here over on Fox. A sleeper game of the week right here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers squaring off against the Los Angeles Chargers. SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. And on the call for that game will be bear with me for a moment. Adam Amin. I believe I just saw Adam Amin's crew. Yes, it'll be Adam Amin, Mark Sanchez, and Christina Pink. And yeah, okay. This is the fourth of the five. Okay, I just want to make sure I had the correct order here. All right. Tampa Bay, Adam Amin, Mark Sanchez, Christina Pink. They will be at SoFi for that one. And the series history favors the Chargers. Chargers lead the all-time series 8-4. The Buccaneers, however, have won the last 3 meetings against the Chargers, including 2020, a wild 38-31 shootout at Tampa Bay. Last time the Chargers were the home team was 2016. They were the San Diego Chargers. Tampa won 28-21. Chargers last beat the Bucs in 2008 in Tampa, 41-24. The Chargers' last home win against the Bucs, you got to go back to 2004 when they won that game 31-24. So the Bucs and the Chargers. Okay. The Bucs have won 3 straight games to get to 7-6 and move ahead of the Atlanta Falcons in the first place in the NFC South. This is arguably their toughest remaining opponent, as it's the only one with a winning record. The Chargers' defense makes this particularly challenging for quarterback Baker Mayfield and company. Los Angeles allows a league-low 15.9 points a game and has given up only 15 passing touchdowns this season. The Chargers have not lost back-to-back games since weeks 3 and 4 when they fell to Kansas City and Pittsburgh, respectively. Part of the reason they lost those games was that quarterback Justin Herbert had a high right ankle sprain. Herbert is navigating another ankle sprain this week, this time to his left ankle. If Herbert plays, he could be limited as a runner, which could hurt the Chargers' chances and lead them to dropping 2 games in a row for the second time this season. The Bucs are riding a 3-game win streak after losing 4 straight from week 7 to 10. They've rushed for at least 150 yards in all 3 games, which is tied for the longest streak in franchise history. The Buccaneers hold a 1-game lead over the Falcons in the NFC South. Their chances to win the division increase to 87% with a win, but would fall to 63% with a loss. Close FPI here. Slight edge to the Chargers. It's only 52% going with the LA Chargers. But I'm actually going to take a chance, and I'm going to go with the Chargers to win this one as well. I'm going to say final score will be 24-21. The Chargers defeat Tampa Bay, but I would certainly not be surprised if Tampa Bay went into SoFi and stole this one. So 24-21, I'm going with the Chargers to win. So Michael Bullock, sleeper game of the week here. Tampa Bay and the Chargers. Definitely some big-time playoff implications for both teams. NFC South division implications for Tampa. Wild card playoff implications for the Chargers after Kansas City won the division against them last Sunday night.
Yeah, this should be a really good one here. I mean, Chargers needed, especially after such a tough loss last week. But yeah, this is another game that could go either way. So I'm gonna go with the LA Chargers to win this one, but I would not at all be surprised if Tampa Bay were to pull this one off. So LA wins. So let's move on.
And we move on to the other half of our huge double main event. The other Super Bowl preview, if you will. America's Game of the Week on Fox. The Pittsburgh Steelers squaring off against the Philadelphia Eagles. Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi. And the spread. And by the way, I forgot to mention the Chargers. The Chargers are opening up as 3-point favorites against Tampa Bay. 3-point spread for Los Angeles in that one. In this one, Philadelphia opening up as a 5.5-point favorite. 5.5 for Philly. Philly leads the all-time regular season series 48-29 with 3 ties. Last meeting was 2022 in Philadelphia. Philadelphia smashed Pittsburgh 35-13. Pittsburgh last beat Philly in 2020, 38-29. That was at home. Here's the interesting thing. The Pittsburgh Steelers have not won in Philadelphia. Last time, you want to know the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers won in Philadelphia? You got to go all the way back to 1965. 1965.
Wow. Really?
1965. Yep. Almost 50 years. 20-14 was the final in 1965. That's the last time Pittsburgh won in Philadelphia. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. But Michael Bullock, it's the overall number 2 game of the week. It's their game of the week. It's America's Game of the Week on Fox. Another Super Bowl preview. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Lincoln Financial Field. Your thoughts on America's Game of the Week?
Boy, this is another good one here. I mean, basically, like you said, I mean, another potential Super Bowl preview. And if these two meet in the Super Bowl, it's the battle of Pennsylvania to see who. And that's what we're getting right here, because who's the best right now when it comes to that? I mean, Russell Wilson has been really good as the starter, but also the Philadelphia offense has been good, and that's also because of Saquon Barkley. So it's going to be tough for both defenses here. I could see this as another high-scoring game. But I just think at the end of the day, because this is in Lincoln Financial Field, I got to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. If this were at Acrisure Stadium, I would have gone with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to go 37-34 as my final score here. So, but I would not at all be surprised if Pittsburgh were to pull this one off. So the Eagles win. It's yours, Florio.
Man, oh man. Another tough one to call. Yes, it really is. So, all right. Okay. This is a terrific matchup of 10-3 and 11-2 teams, but teams that still have questions circling around them. For both of them, many of those questions revolve around the passing game. The Eagles are 5.5-point home favorites in this all Pennsylvania matchup, but neither team's passing offense looks great right now. On that front, Pittsburgh quarterback Russell Wilson threw for just 158 yards with a 58% completion mark, but 2 touchdowns in last week's win over Cleveland. Meanwhile, Philadelphia quarterback Jalen Hurts threw for just 108 yards with a 67% completion mark and 2 touchdowns in last week's win over Carolina, which prompted a lot of post-game discussion over receiver A.J. Brown's criticisms of the team's passing game. We'll see who can get their aerial attack going on Sunday. All right. The unofficial Pennsylvania State Championship is going to come down to the trenches. The Steelers, boasting a top 5 rushing defense that has limited opponents to almost 92 yards a game, will square off against the league's leading rusher in Saquon Barkley. On the flip side, Pittsburgh's young offensive line will face its toughest test of the season against a pair of maulers and defensive tackles Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Offensive coordinator Arthur Smith said, "It's a great challenge. It's what you want. You don't want things to be easy. If we're going to get to where we want to go, we have to get through these challenges." The core issue that sparked the Jalen Hurts A.J. Brown drama is the team's slumping pass game. Reliant on Barkley in the ground attack, Philadelphia is last in the NFL in passing attempts, 328, and 31st in passing yards, 2,348. Establishing a rhythm between Hurts and his receivers has been a challenge. There is an urgency to get the aerial game humming before the playoffs. Tackle Jordan Mailata said, "We're working on it. I'm excited for this week." The Steelers have lost 10 consecutive road games versus the Eagles, dating to 1965. That is tied for their longest road losing streak against a single opponent in franchise history. The Steelers can clinch a playoff spot with a win or a tie. They can also reach the playoffs this weekend with a Miami loss or tie and an Indianapolis loss or tie. The FPI goes with Philadelphia, 61% going with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles to win this one as well. I don't know how high score. I don't think it's going to be that high scoring, but I think it will be decent scoring. 27-23. I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles to defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers in what should be a great game on Sunday afternoon. Next up is Sunday Night Football on NBC, and it will feature. It's on Sunday Night Football on NBC, 8:20 p.m. kickoff as always. Another good one here. The Green Bay Packers squaring off against the Seattle Seahawks, Lumen Field in Seattle. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark. And the spread favors Green Bay. Green Bay opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. Green Bay leads the regular season series 12-8. Their last meeting, Packers have won the last 2 meetings against Seattle, including playoffs. Last meeting was 2021 in Seattle. Green Bay shut out Seattle 17-0. And then it was the playoff game, January of 2020, the divisional playoff that Green Bay won 28-23 at Lambeau. Seattle's last win against Green Bay was 2018 in Seattle, 27-24. So, another one of the big games of the week for sure. And let's dive on in. The Seahawks are atop the NFC West despite just an 8-5 record, but they have the Rams just a win back of them heading into this week, and the Cardinals and 49ers just 2 wins back. Meanwhile, the Packers are 9-4, but well behind the 12-1 Lions and 11-2 Minnesota Vikings in the NFC North. But they're 6th in the NFC at the moment and in good position for a playoff spot. For Seattle, quarterback Geno Smith is again getting some buzz. He posted a remarkable 80% completion mark last week in a 30-18 win at Arizona, albeit while only throwing for 233 yards and a touchdown. For Green Bay, running back Josh Jacobs continues to be key, rushing for 67 yards with a 3.7 yards per carry average and 3 touchdowns in a 34-31 loss to Detroit last week. Packers running back Josh Jacobs has 11 rushing touchdowns this season, including 7 over the last 3 games, tied for the second most in a 3-game span in Packer history. Though the Seahawks have allowed 4.7 yards a carry, only 6 teams have allowed more per carry this season. They have given up just 10 rushing touchdowns this season, 7th fewest, and the last time Jacobs played against the Seahawks as a member of the Las Vegas Raiders in 2022, he totaled 303 yards from scrimmage, including 229 rushing and 2 touchdowns in an overtime win. The Seahawks' embattled offensive line is coming off its best performance of the season. In addition to paving the way for 176 rushing yards in the win over Arizona last week, the group allowed only 2 quarterback hits and a 17% pressure rate, both season lows, and did not allow a sack for the first time this season. The Cardinals don't have an elite pass rush, but neither do the Packers, who are 28th in pressure rate and 26th in pass rush win rate. The Packers have not lost to a team outside of their division since week 1 against Philadelphia. The Packers have all but secured a spot in the playoffs with 99% odds. Seahawks can improve their chances to 73% with a win, but those chances fall to 45% with a loss. Green Bay, the favorite, 63% FPI. Very close one, but I got to go with Green Bay to win this one. My final score is going to be 20-17. Green Bay defeats Seattle, but I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle won this game. Very tough one to call indeed. So Bullock, your thoughts on Green Bay and Seattle Sunday night?
Yeah, this should be another good one here. I mean, a lot of history with these 2 teams. I mean, especially in the playoffs. I mean, you got to think of 2 things for you when it comes to the playoffs. When it comes to these 2, 2003,
yeah, we want the ball
and we're going to score. And of course, the NFC Championship game during the 2014 season, where it looked like the Packers were going to run away with it. But then, of course, Seattle came back and won that and went to the Super Bowl. And then, of course, we all know what happened. Of course, the Patriots went on to beat Seattle. So this will be another chapter when it comes to these 2. But I got to go with the Green Bay Packers in this one. I think, I mean, they're the better team here. And so, yeah, I got to go with the Green Bay Packers. So nothing more to say. Let's get on to our Monday Night Football doubleheader.
Yes. First up, NFC North divisional matchup. The Chicago Bears squaring off against the Minnesota Vikings. US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. And on the call, and that'll be, of course, on ESPN. Just bear with me for a second. I'm doing a quick check here. Second meeting. Okay, this is the second. Okay. So, second meeting here. Whoop. And 8:15 p.m. on ABC, also streaming on ESPN Plus. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, and Lisa Salters will have the call. And the spread favors Minnesota. Minnesota opening up as a 7-point favorite. And they met in Chicago a few weeks ago. Minnesota won that game 30-27 in overtime. So Minnesota adds to their series lead. It's now 67-57 with 2 ties. And both teams split last year. Chicago won in Minnesota last year, 12-10. Minnesota's last win at home against Chicago was 2022. They won by a score of 29-22. So, Michael Bullock, Chicago, Minnesota in prime position in the NFC, whereas Chicago, 6-game losing streak, and like we've been saying, have not been the same since that infamous Hail Mary against Washington.
Yeah, ever since that infamous Hail Mary against Washington, it's just been an absolute struggle for for Chicago. Losers of 6 in a row. Minnesota, I mean, Sam Darnold continues to play really well. But then again, when you got probably one of, if not the best wide receivers in the National Football League, and Justin Jefferson, with the plays he can make, you know Jefferson's going to make Darnold a good quarterback. So I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to win this one. I think they should be able to handle their business with them handily. So it's yours, Florio.
Bears quarterback Caleb Williams had a strong performance against the Vikings' pressure in Week 12, recording his first multi-touchdown game against the Blitz, 9 of 12 for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Bears combated the pressure by putting Williams in situations to get the ball out quickly, leading to his lowest time to pass, 2.42 seconds. The rematch might provide the backdrop for another successful day for Williams, establishing a deep passing attack. He was 5 of 12 for 141 yards on passes with 15-plus air yards against Minnesota, his most completions on those passes in the game to date. The Bears gained 398 yards against the Viking defense in the Week 12 matchup. In the 2 games since, the Vikings have given up 406 to Arizona and 496 yards to Atlanta. Yards allowed don't tell the entire story of any scheme, but defensive coordinator Brian Flores has responded with some urgency. He has mixed more young players into his personnel rotations and even set aside a practice day for tackling drills. If that doesn't work, the Vikings will need continued high production from their offense to compensate. Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson had 132 receiving yards with 2 touchdowns last week against Atlanta. He has never had back-to-back games with multiple receiving touchdowns in his career. The Vikings can reach the playoffs with a win or a tie. They can also clinch a spot this weekend if the Seahawks either lose or tie against Green Bay. 65% FPI for Minnesota. I'm going with Minnesota as well. 30-20, Minnesota defeats Chicago. And we move on to the other half of the Monday Night Football doubleheader. I believe we can find this one over on ESPN. Yep. 8:30 p.m. kickoff. Also on ESPN Deportes. The Atlanta Falcons squaring off against the Las Vegas Raiders, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Chris Fowler, Dan Orlovsky, Louis Riddick, and Laura Rutledge will be on the call for that game. And Atlanta opening up as a 4-point favorite. Atlanta leads the all-time series 8-7. Falcons have won 5 in a row against the Raiders, including 2020, their last meeting, when the Falcons smashed the Raiders in Atlanta 43-6. The Raiders have not beaten the Falcons overall and at home since they were the Oakland Raiders all the way back in the year 2000, when the Raiders smashed the Falcons 41-14. So here we go. Final game of the night. With quarterback Kirk Cousins in the worst slump of his career, 8 interceptions in his last 4 games, the Falcons could look to establish the running game early. Atlanta is one of only 2 teams in the NFL with 2 running backs, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, exceeding plus 70 rushing yards over expected on designed runs. Meanwhile, the Raiders have allowed the second most rushing yards over expected on designed runs at plus 213 this season. With quarterback Aiden O'Connell nursing a bone bruise on his left knee, Desmond Ridder might be in line for a revenge game against Atlanta. Ridder, drafted in the 3rd round by the Falcons in 2022, was traded to Arizona in March after going 8-9 as a starter in 2 seasons. He was signed by the Raiders off Arizona's practice squad in October, 2 days after O'Connell broke the thumb on his right passing hand. So with Gardner Minshew done for the season because of a broken collarbone, Ridder's first start for Las Vegas might come against his first NFL team. God, Ridder said, works in mysterious ways. The Falcons' 4-game losing streak is their longest since 2022. They have not lost 5 straight since 2020. The Falcons had 85% odds of winning their division prior to their 4-game losing streak. It currently sits at 26% per ESPN Analytics. Their chances at the NFC South title improved to 37% with a win and dropped to 12% with a loss. 56% is the FPI for Atlanta, and I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons to win this game as well. Final score, 26-16. The Atlanta Falcons defeat the Las Vegas Raiders in the other half of the Monday Night Football doubleheader. Nothing left to say except take us home, Bullock.
Oh yeah, yeah. Falcons, they really need this to break this this long losing streak that they're on right now. So I too am gonna go with the Atlanta Falcons to win this one to beat the Vegas Raiders. So there's really nothing more to say except Florio. Let's put a bow on this long night.
Indeed. And that will put the bow on this week 15 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in as always. We'll be back with you again tomorrow night at 10:30 over on MF's channel for HBA 95 for a special edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk. We got a big show for you. We got NXT, we got Friday Night SmackDown, and we have the return of Saturday night's main event. We're going to get into all that tomorrow night.
And from what we've been hearing, Florio, it looks like they're really going to go old school with this one.
Oh, yeah. They are definitely going old school with that one. You better believe it, and I can't wait. That will be tomorrow. And then Monday, we got Ridiculously Raw, Monday Night Raw, the fallout from Saturday night's main event. Tony's Take, a special Tony's Take. I will have the results of the TNA Turning Point. And we may do another Thursday night football preview. This time around, it'll feature the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers. Big AFC playoff implication game there. And then I want to say Thursday we will have a preview. We will preview the first round of the college football playoffs. We'll have to check with MF on that one. But 1 week from tonight, the Week 16 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. Actually, hold on 1 second. Actually, yes, it is Denver and the Chargers. Yes, it is. Okay. It was originally supposed to be Cleveland and Cincinnati, but they flexed it. Okay. So we'll recap Broncos Chargers, and we'll preview the games of Week 16, notable games, a huge Saturday doubleheader, the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders, huge NFC East game there, the Minnesota Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks. And I'll even give you, no, that's pretty much it. But we'll get into all of it next week, of course. So that's it. So until tomorrow night, for the Cerebral Smack Talk over on MF's channel, Raceway 95, this is Anthony Florio here for Michael Bullock, and in spirit, good old MF, Michael Fletcher. And of course, always and forever, our First Lady, Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up, Fortune Forest style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Saturday. And until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, you've been watching the Week 15 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and Streamy.com. For everybody who has been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio. So long, and bye, everybody. Bye.